Bogs are wetland areas composed of compressed plant matter known as peat. Peat is high in carbon, which means that in its dry form, turf can be used as fuel. Turf has been cut on Irish bogs and been used to heat homes and feed families for hundreds of years. In 1999, the Department of Arts, Heritage and the Gaeltacht announced that turf cutting was to cease on 53 raised bogs around Ireland that are deemed Special Areas of Conservation, or SACs. Under the new law, turf cutters are expected to stop cutting turf on raised bogs or face fines or possibly prison sentences. The turf cutters of Monavila Bog in Listowel, County Kerry, have been told they cannot cut turf on their land anymore. They believe the turf cutting ban is unjust and are refusing to relocate to another bog to cut turf. Some farmers were offered compensation by the government of €1,000 a year for 15 years. We spoke to Mick Scannell of the North Kerry Turf Cutters Association.
Hello, you're very welcome to Monavila Bog here in North Kerry. One of the bogs that they are after criminalising us for cutting turf into Minister Dean and co. Turf here since the late 1700s, our family alone. It actually even took us through the famine, and it was one of the things we were left to do even during the famine. The British never stopped us cutting turf for fire and baking bread and warm in our homes, and now our present government are trying to stop us. They never at any stage consulted us on it. They forged out the bulldoze their way through the legislation. They drew a line on a map. They're calling that their bog. There's cattle grazing that for maybe 60 years, and now they're saying that's high bog, and they want to flood all that land. They want to stop the people there taking the water off it. What they effectively want to do is take that family and hound them out of their home, flood their farm, and give them €500 for 15 years and maybe 1 year, and take the land off them and compensate and prosecute them if they're caught driving on a tractor with it. There was nobody ever consulted. We have bent over backwards with Minister Dean and co to come to a reasonable settlement. We have no problem leaving them in the middle of that bog. They were so generous to give Europe 30,000 acres. Europe was only looking for 3. And they kept out all the Mona bogs, and all them were kept out. There's an ordinary farmer and the people living around here that they're taking their property off of. That was going out to the road one time.
Oh, all this land, this is the tide.
Yeah. It's out to the road. And what you're looking at there, you see from that bank, that would probably warm 20 families for the year. That's only cutting a foot off of it. And we're not cutting down, making a canal, or we're not making a mine. We're only cutting to the ground level, literally speaking. We're not making holes in the bog and destroying the bog.
And I suppose with the argument being the plants and the fauna.
The fauna comes back, and before they ever started cutting this bog and opened it up, the bog moved across the road below there in the 1800s. Yeah? Because the water, in a bog, water's like a sponge. If you don't leave go some of the water, the bog eventually moves. It actually moved out down the middle, it opens up. Because the weight of the water will move the bog. The bog has to be managed.
And maintained.
Yeah, in fact, they're after learning now when bogs aren't burned. The grouse will disappear out the bog because they need 3 different stages of heather.
Oh,
we have everything in this bog.
Yeah.
We have every type of wildlife.
Okay.
And we're cohabiting, coexisting with them.
And
if they stop us, if they flood this bog, all that wildlife will disappear. The pheasant can't live in the swamp. The wild duck will fly in and fly out. The pheasants are nesting there. The pheasants are nesting there because the ground is dry. And if they flood the bog, all the wildlife, the lark and all cannot nest. They're going to be gone.
Yeah.
And they can't seem to grasp that.
Fair thing.
Well, I'm challenging anyone we know. Name one species we've got rid of out of this bog. Apart from the one Dina who wants to get rid of the human being. That's the only species we want to know that they have been getting rid of. There is no species that we're aware of that disappeared in this bog. In fact, more species are coming in. There's actually deer coming in here now that was never known to live in memory of us.
There's not that much land.
What we have taken off of that would be a foot a year, a metre a year in depth.
And that will grow back.
That may never go back, but the head and all come back the way it was.
Yeah.
And that's all we're taking. And we're doing that since time began. There's been turf being cut by people in this bog. And they're throwing it to Europe. This is not Europe's law. This is the Irish government brought in this law. Europe said take 3,000 hectares of any part of a bog. 3% of one bog will do. They took 100% of this bog and they left other bogs alone. They drew a line across the bog over there and they get people a pile of money to sell it, which is the people's right to sell it. An imaginary line. And you can cut it this side of the line. You can't cut it the other side of the line.
Has there been many people that have like agreed to the money? And
Well, a lot of people that weren't cutting jumped on the bandwagon and took the money.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't think, did 5 genuine turf cutters take money? More of them got frightened into taking the money. But the genuine turf cutter that was cutting for his house, very, very few of them. We'll challenge anyone. They're putting this propaganda in the paper every day. We'll challenge them to name the people and show us that people took the money. Show us where they were cutting. We never met them in the bog.
yeah, so if you're
We were born and bred and starved here. Like, we never met them people.
Mick and his brother Dennis told us about how they had received many warnings from the Gardaí and wildlife rangers to stop cutting turf. We received footage from Mick of one such confrontation, shown here, from the 24th of May 2012. Just 4 days previously, 2 Listowel turf cutters had been arrested for cutting turf on Mona Vila Bog. They are currently fighting against their prosecution in the High Court and might be sentenced to 3 years in jail. To find out about the arguments in favour of the turf cutting ban, we went up to Rathangan, County Kildare, to speak with Tygo Kirkara of the Irish Peatlands Conservation Council.
The Irish Peatland Conservation Council, we're an environmental NGO, non-governmental organisation set up in 1982 with a mission statement of conserving a representative portion of Irish peatlands. You know, globally they're actually quite rare, and the bogs of Ireland in particular, because of where we are geographically with the Atlantic, are different from bogs everywhere else except for essentially Scotland, really. Like, IPCC would have lobbied for this for a long time. We would have been heavily involved in when they originally designated SACs and the surveys and stuff like that, where we were trying to push that, push the conservation of sites. So, like, you know, the 53 SACs are 4% of the entire peatland cover of Ireland, because it's 4% of bogs is what's affected by the turf cutting ban, and it's probably the 4% are the best 4% remaining in the country. So we're just to conserve them. I think it's very important.
Can I ask you, what do you think of people actually being prosecuted?
It's tough, I suppose, but I think it kind of has to happen. They have to show, you know, that they're actually willing to implement this thing. We don't want the strategy, the National Peatland Strategy, or any of the strategies that are coming in to be just a lip service to Europe. Like, you know, we want them to actually be trying to deliver on these strategies, and I think they probably have to show their commitment to implementing these plans, you know. There's a number of plans at play at the minute. There's like the peatland strategy, there's the raised bog management plan, and there's the NHA review, which are all out for consultation at the minute. And they're supposed to guide policy on all peatlands in Ireland. So that would be everybody. That would be Bordamona, Quilcha, you know, undesignated sites, our sites, everybody who owns peatlands essentially would be affected by that. And then the raised bog plan, I suppose, is aimed specifically at the Raised Bog SAC management plan is aimed specifically at the 53 SACs, which are probably the more contentious turf cutting ones. So what they're trying to do there is draw up management plans for all of those sites, and the work on, say, compensation and relocation. Like, that's all ongoing in the background, I suppose, through the Peatlands Council. Around the table as well, you know, because we need to thrash it all out. A lot of things have to be worked out, I suppose, before the situation probably is going to take a long while before it's all fixed, you know, really. But still, ongoing. Yeah, ongoing processes. We need more communication of, you know, like, I think everyone, like, we sit on the Peatlands Council, which is the government set up body to make up this peatland strategy and all those policies, you know, and I think everyone on that would really like to see the TCCA come back to that, and, you know, and have that representation, because the IFA are there, but the TCCA, we'd also like to have them there, just because, you know, it makes bring them into the process as well, because they were there initially and then went off it, but we'd like them back. We're in Lullymore, is the middle of the turf cutting community. Like, everyone here cuts turf. People like our gardener here cuts turf. Like, we're not against the cutting of turf, we're just pro the preservation of really good sites that we have. It's a fair point. Like, it is quite hard, because, you know, it's their family's plot, I suppose, you know, because I think the argument of the traditional cutting of turf is not really valid. If you're using a machine where your grandfather used to use a slan, you can't say that's continuing a tradition. But the tradition of cutting turf, and, say, the cultural resonance of cutting turf, I suppose, like, that is still you still can do that if you choose the relocation option, so that you can move on to a different bog. You can still do all the turf cutting, you can still go out and do the process, and like if you do relocate, the title of the land in the SAC bog is still yours. Like you still theoretically own that, it's just you're asked not to cut turf on it.
Just to give me an acre bog 15 miles away from Longford, which I have 20 acres of bog here, and I can cut any place in 20, and I let agree to that. My family's cutting here 200 years.
But no, and like, you know, turf cutting is obviously very important to a lot of people, and I don't think anyone really wants to eradicate turf cutting as a tradition. I don't think that's anyone's goal in this, really.
On that fatal October day, when he signed all of our rights away, the minister said take compensation instead, and it's got to be Europe's way. He said you've got to stop cutting the turf. He said you've got to stop cutting the turf. There'll be no more cutting, turning or footing. You've got to stop cutting the turf. Don't be the man they take from the bog, or a pawn in the government's plan. For only a fool would observe such a rule. No, they can't take the bog from the man.